Like, people are like, okay, I don't know what shares to buy. I don't know what companies are great. Like, how do I know which companies give dividends? Like, there's just so many things to factor into this whole investing thing that a lot of people are just like, you know what? Never mind. And then they just go and save at a bank. So for those of you who are like opting for the bank just because investing seems a bit too complicated, say no more, because I'm going to tell you guys about an app called FRANC, and they actually help simplify this whole investing fiasco, because we all know we need to do it, but we're just not sure how to go about it.
My name is Nobuhle Kumalo, and I'm a personal finance creator. Some of the videos I've made include how to buy shares, top 10 affordable cars, how to file your taxes, side hustles, interviews, you name it, I've done it. Note, these videos do not constitute financial advice. My aim is to plant the idea, it's up to you to water it. And if you enjoy my content, please tip me with a like, comment, and subscription.
So I'm in a bit of a predicament because I'm into like this investing stuff and I'm making all of these videos. A couple of my close friends have like pulled me to the side and said, listen girl, tell us what to buy, you know, like tell us which companies to invest in. And whenever I'm met with this question, I'm like, bruh, I don't know. And even if I were to give someone my phone and be like, okay, this is everything I've invested in, you know, and you go and you invest with the same amount of money, you and I will never ever have the same results, because it depends on the time. Like, I might have invested at a really good time or a really bad time, which is highly possible. Okay, so even if we have the same amount in the same companies, we will never have the same returns, and this just makes everything so confusing. Like, people are like, okay, I don't know what shares to buy. I don't know what companies are great. Like, how do I know which companies give dividends? Like, there's just so many things to factor into this whole investing thing that a lot of people are just like, you know what? Never mind, like, forget I even asked. And then they just go and save at a bank, which is not a problem. Okay, like, saving in a bank is fine, but we need to remember that saving versus investing is not the same. Saving is like, I need this money, I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't lose its value. But like, if I put in 100 rand, I'm expecting like 102 rand. Okay, whereas investing is like, I want to invest for future me. 100 rand today is worth nothing in 10 years time, so like, grow this 100 rand basically. And that's what investing actually is. Obviously there are risks, as with everything in life, but because with the FRANC app, like, you actually invest in these specialists who are actually highly trained in asset management and all of this, they know this, so they do all the research, so that ordinary citizens like you and me don't have to bother themselves like researching. Because honestly, as much as I'm in finance, that stuff bores me. I don't care. Okay, I just want to see that my money is growing. Okay, that's all I care about. But anyways, if this does interest you, stick around, because I'm going to be giving you a comparison of FRANC versus the bank. It's up to you to choose at the end of the day what you want to do, because there is no right answer. But I hope that this does shed some light for you. And before I forget, thank you so much to FRANC for sponsoring this video. I feel like I'm in my girl math era, because it's like, I was going to do the video anyways, but now it's like, they're paying me to do it, so it's a win-win situation. Thanks.
FRANC is a simplified saving and investing app, and it's aimed at people who want to invest without the hassle of choosing specific companies and doing extensive research. They've also partnered with Alan Gray and Satrix 40.
Okay, so if you want an in-depth analysis of the app, like the background and all of that, I would really encourage you to check out a video that I made a year ago. So I've been using FRANC for a year and a bit. This will give you the history and all of that, but for now, all I want to tell you guys is that it is a registered financial service provider. So like, the government recognizes them. I know this is important, because it's like, if I lose my money, who do I talk to? So I will always do that research. But if you want like the tutorial, how to deposit, how to do all those nice things, go and check out the video I made. Let's get right into the comparison, because right now I'm confused. I got a couple of thousands on me. Am I putting them in the bank or with FRANC? Oh, that rhymes. FRANC bank. FRANC versus the bank. First up, what's the minimum amount you can save?
With FRANC, there is no minimum. You can invest as little as 100 rand.
Whereas with the bank, you have various options. So banks might offer you a savings account where you can put in as little as you want, or there sometimes is like a minimum, so it's like you have to put in 1,000 rand, or sometimes it's like 10,000 rand. But with all of these different tiers, there are different returns that you can expect. So for example, if you're saving in a no minimum amount saving facility, you're probably only earning like 3 to 4% return, which is kind of like your inflation, to be quite honest. Whereas with FRANC, because there's no minimum,
whether you've invested 100 Rand or 10,000 Rand, both of these amounts will earn the same return. So in my case, I had 7.86%, and that would have applied for both of these amounts.
so there is no limit. Number 2, how do I make money? So with Frank, there are actually 2 ways of making money. You can either have the cash portion or the equity portion. And basically the cash is where you're just saving your money and you're earning interest on the balance. This is very similar to the bank. And then the other portion, which is the equity side, is where you're actually now investing in your JSE. So you're investing in your stock or your shares or whatever you want to call them. And basically your return will be determined by what is happening in the market. So there will be fluctuations, but usually, you know, when you look at the graphs, you do see an upward trend. Whereas with the bank, you will earn interest based on your balance. Number 3, what is the average expected return? So with Frank, it actually really depends on what's happening in the market. So like I said, because it is the JSE, it just depends on what is happening in the markets. However, usually they do invest in the top 40 companies, and those usually are quite stable. And currently when I look in my app, I'm actually on, I think I'm on 7.86% return. So with the money I put in there, I've made a profit of 7.86, which doesn't seem like a lot, I know, but if you want to compare this with the bank, as I mentioned, is tiered. So if you're on the lower end, so if you're like saving anything between 0 and 1,000 Rand, you're probably earning like 3 to 4%, which is kind of what I saved on Frank when I got the 7%. It's an amount less than 1,000 Rand, but I'm working on it, don't judge me. But with the bank, like I mentioned, because it is tiered, it actually depends. So if you're like saving between 0 and 1,000 Rand, you could potentially earn like 3 to 4% return. But then if you go higher, if you're like saving 10,000 Rand plus, then it moves up to like 7 to 8%. And if you're saving like 100,000 plus, I think you then get pushed up to the 11% bracket. But the thing is, when you do search on these different banks, they will say interest up to, meaning it's not confirmed that it's going to be 11%, but you will most likely reach that 11%. But then again, there is a cap. It is limited to that. So if the bank somehow makes a bigger return with the money that you gave them, they will keep the rest of it for themselves, because it is a bank, it is a business. Whereas with Frank, it's like, oh, you're just going to get your portion of whatever is happening in the JSE. If the JSE is doing really well and you're making a 20% return, you're going to get a 20% return. If it's not really doing well, you're going to get like a 6% return. But the thing is, it really does depend on the time of the market. So if you're not happy with your current result, just wait it out. You know, it does change a lot. And as an investor, as someone who's been now investing for 3 years, I can tell you now, there will be days where you're like, and then you relax, and then like 2 weeks later, it's like, hey, you know. And that's just because the stock market is based off of like the economy. And guys, this isn't a Frank specific thing. It even happens when you're investing in these other apps where you have your own choices, where you go and deliberately pick your own stocks. So it's just the way that the economy works. But if you have more questions about this, drop them down in the comments below and I'll be more than happy to answer. All right. Next up, when can I withdraw? Because it's all good and well to invest this money, but like, what happens when I want my money? So with Frank, you just have to send them an instruction on the app and just say withdraw, and then give them 2 to 5 days and they'll deposit this money in your bank account. With banks, it depends. So if you've saved in one of those savings accounts where you can just move money across whenever, you can probably get it immediately. But then if you've saved in like a fixed deposit or a notice account, you either sometimes have to wait it out, or you have to serve notice. So you have to give them like 32 days to say, hey guys, I'm gonna need the money, and then you wait for 32 days. And if you are unable to wait, like if you really need this money right now and like you really can't wait, then what happens is the bank will charge you a penalty, because it's like they don't expect that you're gonna want this money so soon, so they kind of do have to like punish you. They'll charge you a penalty, and what usually happens is, because this penalty is sometimes so harsh, it sometimes just erodes whatever return you would have made. So let's say you were going to make like 10% return. Now you end up making 2% return because they've charged you a penalty. So you really need to make sure that when you are making these decisions about your money, how soon are you going to need the money? Like, how much time can you give the provider? Like, are you going to need the money right now? Or can you wait a week? Or can you wait a year? Okay, it really does depend. Next up, I want to talk about goals, because guys, when we're saving and investing, it's really great to have like goals in mind. Because what I used to do in the past is I just used to save for the sake of saving, because I knew I had to save, because my dad told me, because the books say so. But it's like, ugh, I really don't care. But it's so nice when you're saving towards a goal, and this is what Frank really does excel in. So Frank has like a nice personalization on the app where you can like put like titles, and you can even put pictures on top of the goal, so you can save money in different little funds. You can say, oh, this one is for boys vacation, this one is for this and this one. And you know, now that I mention it, one of my friends actually recently sent me a message, and he's like, thank you for telling me about Frank, because he said he managed to save money for a boys vacation, and him and his boys had just come back from the vacation, so he's like happy that he did it. And then he told me that he's now saving for lobola. So I'm like, oh, you got a girlfriend? How come I've never met her? And he's like, no, I don't have a girlfriend yet. I just know that when I do eventually start dating, I'm gonna need to pay lobola. So I was like, oh my word, forward thinking. Like, this makes sense as a gent, as a, you know you're gonna have to pay lobola, so why not just save for it? So he's got like a nice lobola item, and I'm like, yo, really, I'm glad I wasn't born a male. I'm sorry, guys. Someone has to do it. Someone has to do it. But anyways, I just love the concept that you can personalize it. If, let's say, lobola is 100k, I can see, okay, I'm sitting at 40k right now. Like, I need to grow 40%, you know. Hey, Mara, let's not talk about lobola, because I know that's a whole story. Okay, but, okay, now out of interest, are you guys saving for lobola? And if you're like a woman, are your partners saving for lobola? Do you know? I wonder. And if you've made it to this part of the video, comment, I see you, Frank, just so I know that you guys are still tuned in, and also so I can know who my real OG viewers are. Like, I see you guys, and I love you guys. Okay, let's get right back into the video. And then obviously with the bank, like, the bank doesn't really care. Like, no offense, the bank has a lot of stuff that they're busy doing, so they don't really care what you're saving for. So you're just saving, and it's there. I also heard from the Frank team that they're currently working on like a combined saving thing. So whether you're saving with your partner like for a house deposit, or you're saving with your girls for a girls trip, now you guys can like actually save together, and then you can see who's saving. Like, you can see who's contributing and who's like playing games. This kind of reminds me of the Stockfell model that like our parents used to do, but I think like nowadays we're not really into it. So maybe having it online and having it like on a digital format on an app where you don't really have to like have these meetings, because we live such different lives, maybe that'll actually bring back the Stockfell community that we have. But obviously I'm pretty sure there will be like regulations about who can take out the money, because hey, well, imagine now you're saving like 10,000 rand and then someone's putting 2 rand and then they just withdraw the whole thing. Nga screama, yo, ngaluma app, shame. Your shame, they would see the real me. And then lastly, on credibility. So traditional banks are obviously going to win this one because they've been around for so long. Like, we've grown up seeing all of these banks. So obviously, naturally, when you want to save or put money away, you will tend to go there, because it's like, I've known them my whole life. Like, I know where to find their branch. I can see them on the streets, you know. But with Frank, as much as it is a startup company, Frank is a registered financial services provider. So they are abiding by the laws. They are recognized by the South African government, which is important, you know. And then I don't know if you guys really care about like my personal side of things, but like, I've been using Frank for over a year now, and I haven't really had issues with them. Like, when I want to get my money, I can. So I don't know if that gives you comfort, sure, but happy for you to do your own research. And if you do have any other questions, do drop them down below in the comments. Frank team is definitely watching this video, and they are watching the comments. So if I can't answer something, I'll literally be like, hey, at Frank, come speak to your potential people. Alright guys, now since we've done the comparison, I have one question for you. Are you now saving in the bank, or are you investing with Frank? Let me know in the comments, Frank or the bank. If you're choosing Frank, comment some orange hearts. And if you're still tending towards the bank route, that's okay. Send me some black hearts. And of course, this video would be useless if I didn't tell you where to find the app. You can download this on App Store or even the Google Play Store. Just search for Franc, F-R-A-N-C.
You can also check out the links in my description box.
And you should find it. It's like an orange icon, and setup should be really quick. However, I do have that video that I've made, as I mentioned, so do check that out, and hopefully that will help you. Thank you so much, guys. I will check you in the next video. Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, please tip me with a like, comment, and subscription.